And continue to breathe in peacefully and deeply, as if your entire being is moving into that universal sound of Om. Every peaceful and conscious breath helping you to just empty out and experience a sense of quiet, when Jesus talked about praying, he said to go into the closet and shut the door, and there to pray to your Father in secret. And we know that he was talking about the invitation to go within, to shut the door to outer distractions, and to spend time in quiet reflection and openness, that we might touch and experience that presence of spirit by whatever name we choose to call it. And so as you continue to breathe peacefully, allow your attention also to move into the area of the heart, the center of your chest, imagining each mindful breath moving in and through the heart. Each mindful breath moving in and through the heart. And very gently hold the question to your soul: what quality would be most healing for you in your life right now? If you were to practice holding a feeling such as perhaps faith or love or joy or serenity or surrender, what feeling would bring the greatest experience of well-being, of health, of wholeness to you? And whatever drifts into your awareness without too much effort, for the next few minutes in complete stillness and silence, practice that feeling. As if each mindful breath moving in and through your heart is a breathing in and a breathing out of that quality. And practice that feeling, that mindfulness, for the next few minutes together now, in complete quiet, in complete stillness, in the silence. Allow your attention to focus on the music filling the room once again, signaling bringing our time of meditation to a close. And take just a moment in your own personal way to silently give thanks for just the experience of being together in community, in prayer and in meditation. And then go ahead and take a few nice deep breaths in and out, and when you're ready to just go ahead and open your eyes and look around. Move around just a little bit if you need to. Make sure you feel like you're fully back. We have been exploring a book that was written by ministerial friend and classmate of mine, Unity Minister Robert Brume. The name of the book is Finding Yourself in Transition, Using Life's Changes for Spiritual Awakening. We have explored the idea that change is inevitable, but transition and transformation is really a choice. Transition and transformation happen because we choose to respond to and deal with change in a certain kind of way. We've taken a look at endings and understanding that endings usually have a specific external trigger point, and that endings often come with feelings of anxiety or fear or sadness or crisis or confusion. And then there is a time when it's clear that the ending has ended. Those feelings have subsided. And we find ourselves then in the second stage of transition, which is a stage that we looked at last week, the void. By the way, they told me they kept selling out of CDs last week, so many of you, like me, must feel like you're kind of in the void right now. The void being that place where it's clear that the end is finished, but the new beginning has not yet fully, or perhaps at all, shown itself to us. It sometimes feels like a place of no man's land or a wasteland, or a little bit like maybe Jesus felt in the wilderness being tempted those 40 days and 40 nights, or the Israelites felt wandering through Sinai with Moses, that in between, clearly no longer in Egypt, but not yet in the promised land, that flat space that we just can't wait, what? To get out of, because we want the new beginning. We want not just the old life repackaged, we want to experience something really new and something really different. It is our soul's response to God, to Spirit, to the evolutionary drive to be more, to expand, to evolve. So, the plan unfolds. Another door opens. The new beginning. Robert writes, "We know that all things change. Although change sometimes appears random and chaotic, not one thing occurs without purpose. Although the underlying purpose is rarely evident at first, very often it's only in retrospect, after the passage of time and the healing of our pain." Those are key phrases. After the passage of time and the healing of our pain, that we begin to perceive a purpose behind our life transitions. And as we identify that purpose behind those life transitions, we are empowered to then be in that new beginning, that new self, that new identity. He points to the idea that within every cell, within the nucleus of every cell, there is a DNA molecule that directs the destiny of that soul, that has that cell, that has the blueprint of that cell, so that cell knows what it's supposed to do and be. And he likens it to the idea that there is a blueprint in each and every one of our souls that is really the destiny of who and what we are meant to be. You are not here by accident. You know that, right? Do you know that? You're not here by accident. You are here by divine appointment. You have shown up, as have I and all the rest of us on the planet at this time. We have shown up by divine appointment. We are here to do and be something that is that will facilitate, I'm about to make up another word, that will facilitate the natural ongoing evolution of consciousness in humanity. Futurists such as Barbara Marx Hubbard, and way before Barbara Marx Hubbard's time, Teilhard de Chardin, the Jesuit paleontologist, talked about the idea of conscious evolution. And that when we see these crises happening in the environment, that these crises are meant as evolutionary drivers to push forward life to higher and more evolved states. And there is a distinct and direct parallel to what happens in the evolution of nature to what is happening to the evolution of your soul, my soul, your consciousness, my consciousness at this point in human history. That we are being grown and evolved to a higher state of consciousness, not just for our own benefit, but for the world that is trying to emerge through each and every one of us. And as we begin to really identify the endings in our lives, to deal with them completely and wholly, to heal from them as we must, as we are willing to be in a time of not knowing, a time of uncertainty, but a time of trusting that there is a blueprint, there is a plan, there is a destiny. As we move successfully through these experiences, we will find that we are evolving and emerging into something new and different. Can you feel that? Can you feel that? You are not here by accident. You are here by divine appointment. And everyone and everything that has been happening in your life, both the things that are easy and good and pleasant, and those things that are challenging and painful and difficult, are drivers for your own evolution. And it is the process by which you will become that new being. In this book, Bob talks about the idea of true new beginnings. Say that with me. True new beginnings. And what he is trying to differentiate is that a true new beginning is not just the old life repackaged. It is a new life, a completely new life, from the inside out. And staying with us, I know many of you have, being patient and trusting in the time of the void, the time of the uncertainty, is what will propel you into that new and transformed life. I want to share with you a few pointers that he makes about what this true new beginning feels like, what it looks like, how it begins to come about. First, he says a true new beginning starts as an internal experience and usually a subtle one. It starts as an internal experience and usually a subtle one. You know, when we think about new beginnings, sometimes we think about new beginnings where we actually sit down very consciously and say, I'm going to do this in a new way in my life now. And so maybe at the beginning of a new year, we have all that wonderful energy and we set new goals and new directions and new dreams, and that's well and good. But that's a very different process than what he's talking about here that can lead to a radically transformed life from the inside out. He says a new beginning starts as an internal experience, often a very subtle feeling. When a true new beginning takes place, he says the external circumstances of our life only slowly begin to reflect the internal transformation that has already taken place. We return to our life with newfound powers and freedom and strength that we gained as a result of the ending and that we gained as a result of the time in the hallway or the time in the void. And we come to experience that this new wisdom and power are not given to us solely for our own benefit, but are given that we may serve others in some way. I see some of you nodding to that. Aren't you glad that you do not have to make every single mistake yourself? Aren't you glad and grateful that you have neighbors and friends and people in this community that have made mistakes that you haven't made? That you can learn from, so you don't have to make those same mistakes. Nod your head if you're in agreement with that. Well, you're being used as well, and the mistakes that you are experiencing are being used as well, if you're consciously participating in them, to not only grow a bigger, better, more wonderful you, but to serve others as well. Breathe into that for a moment. I know in those times in my life where the changes have been hard and difficult and painful, that one of the things that has helped me to deal with them is to realize, oh my gosh, this is not just ultimately for my own growth and my own benefit, but it's going to help me in some way to be a benefit of other people. That's an important thing to remember. And in that process, we discover a whole other aspect of ourselves. We identify new potentials. We identify new strengths, new abilities. And so very important to this idea of true new beginnings is that it usually begins not with something that we've changed out here and have said we want this to be the new beginning, but we're beginning to feel something moving or healing or changing inside of ourselves. Is that making sense? And part of what is really important with the new beginning, and this is the second point, is that we trust the process and we don't try to rush it. We don't try to force the fullness of the new beginning before it's time. We don't want the new beginning to be premature. If you think about the idea of prematurity, if that's the word, as it relates to a baby, the last thing we want is a baby to be born before the baby is developed, right? We do everything. Modern medicine does everything to make sure the baby stays where the baby belongs for a full term. Why? Because the baby needs that to grow and to mature. And so in us moving into this new beginning that our soul is longing for and that spirit is pulling at us to become, that we need to be mindful of the time and trust the timing of its unfolding. That means we need to be paying attention. We need to be paying attention to what's moving inside of us, what is feeling like that nudge, what is it beginning to look like, and to have the courage to step into that, but not to force it ahead of time. Bob writes, a true new beginning occurs only after we've completed the work from previous stages and when we are internally ready. And when we are internally ready. I was thinking about this idea of not rushing into the new beginning, of not forcing it, of not having it be artificial because of some of the processes I'm going through in my own life right now. I noticed, because I keep journaling about it and I keep thinking about it, that this birthday that I'm going to have next month, where I turn 60, feels like a big one. Feels like a big one. Thank you for that, but that's not why I shared it. You know, turning 30, I know for women turning 30 can be, oh my gosh, you know, or in turning 40 or turning 50 and turning 60, but none of those were ever anything. And I'm watching myself with this turning 60, and I'm saying, what's going on inside? Because I'm feeling something. And it's not about being old or older. It's about I had identified an artificial new beginning that I attached to the number 60. Are you with me? And I realize that I'm doing just the opposite of the way to really handle a true new beginning. The things that I'm sensing as I'm clearly in that space of empty nesting, as John and I are looking at our life together as a couple and our work and all of these things through new and different eyes, and definitely feeling that something's moving, I just thought in my wonderful, organized, methodical planning self that, well, we'll just make it happen by 60. But that's a forced new beginning. That's a forced new beginning. It's not happening because of a number, and it may not happen at 60. Maybe it'll be 60 and 3/4, 61. Who knows? But the point being that I found myself breathing into this and saying, you're trying to force something. Be willing to take the steps that are right before you, to feel into the subtle inner changes that are happening, because those I can identify. I can put words to those, and I can begin to see how they are surfacing externally in the way that I lead, in the way that I teach, and the things that I'm saying yes to, the things that no longer bother me, the things that give me life and joy. So I am able to interpret and understand some of those inner changes. Is this helpful to you to kind of be able to identify for yourself as well? The other thing that I want to share about this idea of new beginnings and looking at them through deeply insightful spiritual eyes is that sometimes they come packaged initially very differently than you thought they were going to. Some of you are chuckling and laughing about that. So there was another new beginning for John and me. A year ago, we sold our home that we had lived in for 18 years, and we bought a new house. The home that we had lived in for 18 years was a model, and we had so little furniture when we bought that house that we bought it completely furnished, which meant it was like a turnkey house. We happened to like everything in it, so it was very easy to step in and enjoy without a whole lot of work or decision making. This other house that we bought, we absolutely love. We were divinely guided there, but we wanted to make it our home, right? There's a big difference between a physical space that is a house and your home. So in my organized, methodical, planning way, said, okay, a year. We're coming up on a year, October 28th, of being in this new home. So my new beginning, in my mind, is going to happen on or before October 28th. So all these wonderful projects for a year, almost, major projects, have been progressing quite well until last week. I should never give lessons on transitions, because then I get right in them. I should never give lessons on relationships, because then I get right in stuff. But anyway, a slab leak. Yeah, it's going to be handled, but a slab leak. So all the progress that we made, a good chunk of it is undone. And the whole purpose of all these projects was us feeling a new beginning of transforming our physical space to our home. And when I first saw the water that led us to identify that there is a significant slab leak and the house is torn up, there's holes in the drywall, there's refinished floors that have to be, a whole bunch of stuff. My first reaction was not, oh, isn't this wonderful? It wasn't that. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't that. My first reaction was, now, we haven't achieved what we wanted to until last night. With all the fans making tons of noise in the house, running 24/7, lots of chaos, lots of mess, I turned to John and I said, oh my God, this new beginning has come. It's here now. The house isn't done. It's less done than it was 2 weeks ago. But the new beginning is here because I feel 100% it is our home. I wish I could have gotten there without the leak in the slab, or according to the plan that I had, which I still think was a good and reasonable one. But it didn't happen that way. But the point being, many points being actually, when we are in this work, and this work is in us, these teachings, we do move through everything decidedly and definitely differently than absent of these practices and teachings. And if we are paying attention, we will begin to see that new beginnings can really happen. First, they do happen with that subtle change that you feel going on inside of you that you have to pay attention to. But they can also then appear wrapped not with a pretty bow around them, but with something quite different that eventually causes you to really recognize something new is happening and changing. Is this making sense? It's making a lot of sense to me. I hope it's making some sense to you. And then a couple of last points that I want to bring up here. One of the other aspects of helping to really identify a true new beginning is being willing to sit in deep questions and pay attention to your answers to those deep questions. Deep questions like, what does my soul really long to do and be? If I didn't have to worry about paying bills, what would I really want to do? I'm not suggesting that you drop the real responsibilities of adulthood, but you can drop that from your process of questioning so that you can really try to get clear on what does my heart and soul long for? And what do I need to do to begin to build my life, more of my life, to look like that? Another type of question is to ask ourselves, if we were to die tomorrow, what would feel unfinished? What would feel unfinished? And I bet if you're looking at that question honestly, it's not what projects are not finished. It's not what tasks on your to-do list are not finished, right? It's going to be something much deeper than that, isn't it? It's going to be something that is really your heart and soul speaking to you. If you ask that question, if I were to die tomorrow, what in my life would feel unfinished? That is an important aspect of what's wanting to emerge in your life, what's trying to mold and shape you. I want to close with just one more piece, and it is a piece about the idea of commitment and how as we find ourselves gradually moving out of the void and beginning to identify what our new beginning is going to actually be externally, one very important aspect that we're going to have to get comfortable with is the idea of commitment and the idea of unfamiliarity. The idea of unfamiliarity in that this new you is new. And there's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be things that feel uncomfortable or things that feel awkward. And to be willing to be with that and give that new you a chance to really grow and thrive. And then commitment is going to be a key factor as well, because there's so much past that will pull you back to where you were or how you were, that in order to really solidify this new you, you've got to be committed to her or committed to him. And let me close with some words from William H. Murray in the Himalaya expedition about commitment. You've heard these words before. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. a whole stream of events, issues from the decision raising in one's favor, all manner of unforeseen incident and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamt would have come his way. Commitment. There is a new you wanting to come forth. There is something imprinted in your soul. Don't turn your back on it. Shine the light on it. Namaste.